so much, Tejas, for tea. And yeah, it's just so lovely to be here, looking around and just all of your beaming faces. Yeah, it's really, really lovely. And to see some familiar faces, but also in a new context. Yeah, thank you for coming down. And yeah, so I think kind of drawing out a bit of what's already been shared, I thought I'd talk a bit more in detail about some of the key turning points that led me to Buddhism, in particular to Brixton. And then I want to talk a bit about what have I found here, beyond tea, biscuits and a good chat, which we're very good at. But yeah, what have I found here, and why is that something that I want to commit myself to? Yeah, so as has already been said, Buddhism has kind of been around in the background of my life since I was 3. But I first probably met Buddhism when I was 16, and I decided to go on a course at the Bristol Buddhist Centre. And what really struck me at this, kind of during this first experience, was the people and the community and the Sangha. Yeah, it was like people were interacting with each other in this way that I just had never come across before, kind of with such openness and generosity, and really taking people in as they are, and really taking me in and taking me seriously at 16, and that felt like quite a big deal. And yeah, just talking about meaningful things, but in a very kind of energized and uplifting way. And I had a very strong meditation experience during that period of my life, of the Metta Bhavana, which, yeah, for those of you who don't know, is like a loving kindness meditation, where you bring to mind yourself and other people, and you wish them well. And one of the stages, you bring in someone who you find really challenging, or kind of represents maybe your kind of enemy. And for me, at 16, having just turned vegan and being kind of in my angry vegan phase, the worst person in the world was sort of represented by the figure of a butcher, which is really funny looking back. So yeah, there I was kind of in my Metta Bhavana meditation, and came to the stage and I brought this butcher to my mind. And I just felt so much love and so much compassion for this butcher, kind of like a stereotypical guy with like the sort of the apron sort of stripe. And I, yeah, just remember hugging this butcher and just feeling so much compassion for him, and really feeling his humanness, kind of beyond the fact that he did something that I really didn't, I didn't agree with, or I think was ethical. But yeah, and I remember going home and being in floods of tears, and just really struck by this, like, wow, this is kind of more than anything that I thought was possible, these emotions. But yeah, so I was young and I wanted to go to university, and I didn't really want to take life seriously yet. Yeah, I didn't really want to think about the meaning of life or what reality was. I wanted to just go have fun with my mates and yeah, do all of that stuff. But I had this really strong sense that this is really important, and this is a really significant experience, and this is something that I want to come back to. And yeah, I think in a way at 16 I'd had a glimpse of this sort of exciting potential, but I hadn't really met life yet. And I think I needed to go and meet life first. So yeah, over the years following that, whilst I did have a lot of fun, I became a lot more aware of the suffering in the world. Yeah, supporting lots of friends around me who were really struggling with their mental health. My first partner was very depressed and actively suicidal. And at 21, I had this kind of climate realization moment, that yeah, the way that we're acting is actually killing the world. And it really sort of, I had this really strong sense of sadness and kind of fear, but also this sense of responsibility that I really want to do something about this and make the world a better place. It kind of just felt like something was wrong, like the people around me are feeling depressed and we're killing the world, like what's going on here? So I moved to London to start a job with an environmental charity, and during that week, that first week I arrived, I remember cycling over London Bridge, kind of with these swarms of business people in their sort of straight dark jackets and their briefcases, looking very stern, and sort of all of them, sort of swarms of them, I still can see it. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, kind of, it's really funny actually, just this sort of world we're living in, and sort of felt like people were putting on this performance or acting this role. But it also just made me think that this isn't it for me. Surely life is about more than this. And I think that's kind of what then led me to re-engage with Buddhism. And I think that kind of early vision that I'd had when I was 16 kind of felt like a bit of a small seed that had been planted, and then it needed to wait until the right conditions for it to be able to grow. And yeah, it was kind of coming back to London in this context. That was my new conditions. What have I found here coming to Brixton? So over the last 2 years of learning more about the Dharma, I've definitely come to realise that changing the world isn't just something we do out there through actions, through my job. It's got to be a lot more than that, and it's got to come from transforming ourselves. And I've come to understand that by being more honest and more generous and more loving, I can be a much more positive force in the world. And I have a real confidence from my experiences that Buddhism will bring me closer to this and move me in this direction. I feel like the more that I integrate these teachings into my life, the more I just feel fully alive. I feel more in touch with my emotions, my body. I remember the first Life with Full Attention course, the second week is about the body, and it was just like this kind of whole thing I just hadn't explored, but I've been living in my whole life. And kind of an opening up and letting go of this kind of armour that I'd sort of built around myself. It's not always easy, letting all sorts of things in, but definitely feels more real. And it's just felt like such a relief, that Buddhism offers this kind of radically different way that we can live, that resonates with my desire to live a life that is meaningful and ethical, contributes to the well-being of the world, just a lot more beautiful. And it's just been amazing to be part of this community. I really wouldn't be here, I don't think, without you guys. Just being connected by something that goes much deeper than just age and hobbies and kind of identity, just like this thread that just, I don't really have words for it, but just something much, much deeper that unites us all. And this kind of shared desire to explore what life is about. And I find that really exciting. And just this real genuine encouragement for each other to grow as well. It's like we're kind of all running this like a marathon together, and like we're all cheering each other on at the same time. And also just being around people with so much more experience than me as well, and seeing the Dharma alive in people who have been practicing and kind of showing me what's possible. And I remember this funny weekend a year ago where Alex had a party at the Men's Community House in Streatham. There was this party on the Saturday night, and I remember dancing next to Mitra wearing a mullet. It was very fun. But then in the morning, the Sunday morning, we all gathered in that house in the living room with Vajrachara, who was leading a women's study morning. And I remember cycling home from the study morning and just feeling so much happiness and joy, and just this real sense of like, yes, like these are the people who I can dance with and kind of let loose with in such a playful, joyful way, but then I can also kind of get down to business with and sort of explore these really meaningful, deep things. And I think that's such an important balance. It's just been so energising and exciting joining a study group. meeting with 17 women each week and sort of doing this all together, sharing our experiences. And yeah, it's where the Dharma really comes alive for me. It's like these interactions with people. And yeah, creating something together that kind of Vajratara talked about, sort of creating something that's sort of beyond each of our own individual people. So yeah, I just have this real sense that yeah, this is what life is about, and it feels very clear that this is the path, and you guys are the people, and I feel ready to enter the dance. Yeah, and I'm just very grateful to be sat here and to be sharing this day with Maddie and Nat. Yeah, and I'm excited to see what we can all become. Thank you.